course, we begin here at home as President Bola Tinubu is back in Abuja after attending the Arab Islamic Summit in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The summit focused on ending violence in Gaza, with Nigeria reaffirmed as part of a ministerial committee working to resolve the crisis and strengthen global support for Palestine. During the summit, Tinubu urged world leaders to take decisive action to protect civilians and called for adherence to international law. On the sidelines, the president met Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who praised Nigeria's economic reforms and pledged support. According to a statement by Bayo Onanuga, special advisor to the president on information and strategy, discussions between both leaders included a proposed $5 billion bilateral trade facility, as well as fostering partnerships in oil and gas, agriculture, and infrastructure development. So just as we discussed yesterday, we were hoping that this summit would yield more for Nigeria besides the diplomatic engagement.
So on the Gaza matter, we all know that that is an international issue that is causing rifts across the world. We were in Washington, D.C. during the IMF World Bank annual meetings, Arise News, and we spoke to protesters that were there. It also possibly cost Kamala Harris to some degree Michigan because of the large Arab contingent that is there. But we know just last week, or was it about a week ago, Qatar pulled out of negotiations between Israel and Gaza because Qatar said neither parties were negotiating in good faith. So as much as President Tinubu is saying that all parties need to get involved, some serious action has to be taken. This now, of course, is President Trump's issue that he has to now take in when he's inaugurated. Biden tried to make this part of his legacy in getting peace, but unfortunately it has not worked out. So if Qatar is saying that neither parties are negotiating in good faith, and it's going to take a lot more. Some are suggesting that the U.S. should halt weapons to Israel because the death toll now for children, men and women for Palestine is in the hundreds of thousands. So serious diplomatic pressure has to be placed on both parties because Hamas and other organizations that are contingents of what's going on there are still launching weapons at Israel. On the trade facility, I mean, again, Arise News was in Riyadh 2 weeks before the president got there for the the investment initiative in Riyadh. We are seeing what Saudi Arabia is doing in terms of developing their non-oil economy. So, and in fact, Vimba, you and I were chatting about how Saudi Arabia said that there should be debt forgiveness for African nations. So it's good to see them putting support forward with Nigeria. The $5 billion facility will go a long way in assisting our economy in terms of development, but we need to follow the path that Saudi Arabia is taking, which is to try to deleverage, not completely from oil, because we're going to see oil prices in just a moment.
Right.
So a couple of things. This Organization of Islamic Cooperation Summit, I align fully with those that are saying, why did Nigeria join in the first place? Are we a Muslim nation? Because to a large extent, we forget that we still have trade partnership with countries like Israel and America and the likes. And the resolution taken by something now called the Joint Arab Islamic Committee, which is mostly headed by foreign affairs ministers of most of these Arab nations, is along the lines of two-state solution, harmonization of the West Bank and Gaza, which might not be possible now, stopping the killing and the genocide and all of that. Over 3,000 people have been killed already, and trying as much as possible to be able to harmonize the ecosystem in tandem with the aspirations of Arab nations. And that's why I made the point. If Nigeria joined an international Christian union or a committee of nations, is this going to be the way forward? Somebody argued with me the other day and sent me a message and said, oh, but Nigeria has representative of the Vatican. And I look and I said, really? Is that an argument? That's people of a certain faith. That's not the full argument. But this is the entire sovereign nation saying we're joining the OIC. As regards trade partnership, yeah, it's good. We're looking for money. So we're beggars. We'll beg anybody for money. 5 billion trade facilities is it's a welcome development, but they too have done some capital injection. SALIC, which made a prominent feature at the conference Ruth was talking about that went for Riyadh, did acquire about over a 33% stake in Olam Agricare, and that's for about 1.2 billion thereabouts. So yes, there's been a lot of trade overtures here and there and all of that, But the stick-up point for me is, it's not just about going to Saudi and begging for money. What is it going forward? How are we going to revitalize our economy? Our economy is down. Rotus was taking a story yesterday of how most manufacturers can't sell their inventory. Today, the story came out of how DSTV has lost close to 243,000 subscribers, so much to the extent that in the Heritage Bank failure, they lost $21 million. So companies are losing, and most of the losses they made, they say it's because of inflation. So the question is, I'm even ambivalent about going to beg Saudi for money. When you collect the $5 billion from Saudi, what are you going to do with it? That's just my question.
All right, absolutely. I think all points very well noted. A successful diplomatic outing, if we may say that, because, of course, the agenda was negotiating or agreeing on a way forward with regards to the war in Gaza, and a great emphasis as well on restoring peace in Lebanon. Remember, yesterday I had touched briefly on the fact that Lebanon enjoys good relations with Nigeria, both on a personal level for the president and on a national level as well, with regards to the level of trade that we do and the number of Lebanese that participate and invest heavily in the Nigerian economy. However, as the Crown Prince applauds President Tinubu for his reforms and all that is being done in Nigeria, I do hope that the Crown Prince also had a very honest conversation with President Tinubu about what it takes to create true economic turnaround and reform in your country. Because if you look at Saudi Arabia and you look at how far they have come and where they are going, one immediately thinks of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Because we're all aware that by the year 2030, it's projected that the oil price is going to peak. What then happens? Well, Saudi has looked into the future and said, we have to start diversifying our economy like yesterday. And that's exactly what they're doing. Some of the policies within Vision 2030 include privatization, includes pivoting to mining, include pivoting to renewable energy, agriculture, all of these industries. And this is what we've been saying here repeatedly, that it's one thing for us to liberalize and deregulate the petroleum sector. It's one thing for us to float the exchange rate. But where are the supporting policies? Where is the activity with regards to diversification? I'm glad Rufai pointed out that investment, that $1.2 billion investment that was made into Olam agriculture. And we're hoping that after this summit, further investment can be made to acquire more of a stake. Because you look at agriculture just on its own as a sector and the potential that it has. Currently, Nigerian agriculture is barely mechanized. Now, for a nation of this size, that's highly unfortunate. We're not seeing greenhouses. You seldom see irrigation. You seldom see the use of technology to ensure that the nation is not only food secure, but that we can also export excess to the rest of the world and earn our much needed foreign currency. Apart from that, we've seen agriculture fluctuating just around the 20% mark with regards to contribution to the nation's GDP. There's a report from Nairametrics saying that agriculture is actually shrinking. And there's no surprise, because when you consider climate change, you consider security, consider all of the issues around the sector, it is inevitable that the sector was going to shrink. However, what are some of the intentional things that are being done with regards to the mining sector? We all know the amount of illegal mining that's going on in states like Zamfara. We know that Nigerian gold is being extracted out of the ground and is being traded on the black market, and just a small circle of elites is benefiting from that. We saw the Minister of Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, make a huge announcement about the gold sector, and a bar of gold, I believe, was refined and presented to the president and so forth. But what has happened since then? So for me, I think the key takeaway, when we travel as we like to do, the key takeaway is for us to learn from all of those places where we travel to and bring lessons home that we can implement. Let it not just be a talk shop.